I am Fatma Ahmadzi, working as lecturer botany at Government Girls Degree College, Quarry Road, Quetta. The course which I am teaching in this semester is Diversity of Plants. We have already covered virology, bacteriology, and phycology in midterm of this semester. Now I would be teaching bryology for final term as an online instructor. In the previous lecture, I discussed the general characteristics of bryophytes. In this lecture, I am going to discuss two plants of bryophytes, which are Riccia and Anthoceros. In this slide, I am going to discuss the systematic position of Riccia. Riccia is a bryophyte which belongs to the class of Hepataceae. The kingdom is Plantae, division is Bryophyta, class is Hepataceae, order is Merchantales, family is Ricciaceae, and genus is Riccia. The distribution of Riccia. It is worldwide in distribution. It is cosmopolitan. Riccia is most widely distributed genus of family Ricciaceae. It has 200 species. They are terrestrial plants but are moisture loving, which means they love damp and shady places. Now I am going to discuss the plant body of Riccia. In this plant body, we are going to discuss the gametophyte of Riccia. As we discussed earlier, that there are two distinct generations in the bryophytes, which are the gametophytic generation and the sporophytic generation. Here I am going to discuss the plant body of the gametophytic generation. It is dorsiventral, which means it consists of a dorsal surface and a ventral surface. Dorsal surface means upper surface, ventral surface means lower surface. It is thalloid, which means it has a thallus-like structure. It is flat. It is dichotomously branched. It is light green in color. The thallus is thick in the middle while thin on the margins. It has an apical notch which is present at the apices or the tips. Rhizoids and scales are also present. Rhizoids are thread-like structures which are colorless. They are involved in the absorption of water and nutrients from the soil, and they also attach the plant body to the substratum. While the scales are violet in color, they are smaller in size as compared to the rhizoids, and they are involved in the protection of the growing points. This is the diagram of the dorsal surface of the thallus of Riccia. You can see that the apical notch and median longitudinal furrow are labeled in this diagram. You can see that the plant body is lobed and the dichotomous branching is obvious in this diagram. The apical notch is present at the apices or the tips. The median longitudinal furrow is present across the thallus. In this slide, I am going to discuss the ventral surface of the thallus of Riccia. By this diagram, you can see that the apical notch, rhizoids and scales are labeled. The apical notch is present at the apices. Rhizoids and scales are present on the ventral surface. Rhizoids are meant for the absorption of water and nutrients from the soil and for the attachment of the thallus to the substratum, while the scales are meant for the protection of the growing points. In this slide, I am going to discuss the life cycle of Riccia. As we discussed that there are two distinct generations in the life cycle of bryophytes, which are gametophytic generation and sporophytic generation. Gametophytic generation is concerned with sexual reproduction, while sporophytic generation is concerned with asexual reproduction. In gametophytic generation, gametes are formed, while in sporophytic generation, spores are produced. In the gametophyte of Riccia, male and female reproductive organs are produced. The male reproductive organ is known as the antheridium, while the female reproductive organ is known as the archegonium. The antheridium produces the male gamete, which is antherozoid, while the archegonium produces the female gamete, which is egg. The egg and the antherozoids are haploid. After the process of fertilization or syngamy, oospore is formed, which is diploid, which give rise to embryo. The embryo give rise to the sporogonium. Inside the sporogonium, spore mother cells are produced. The spore mother cells, after the process of meiosis or reduction division, give rise to haploid spores. The haploid spores grow and germinate into the juvenile stage, which is known as protonema, which give rise to Riccia plant. Riccia also reproduce by vegetative methods such as by the formation of structures known as tubers and gamma. The next plant which I am going to discuss is Anthoceros. In this slide, I am going to discuss the systematic position of Anthoceros. Anthoceros belongs to kingdom Plantae, division Bryophyta, class Anthoceroti, order Anthocerotales, family Anthocerotaceae, and genus Anthoceros. Anthoceros is terrestrial and it loves damp and shady places. It grows on moist soil. The plant body is thalloid, which is a thallus-like structure. It is flat. It is dichotomously branched, which means it is lobed. It has long, narrow, and cylindrical structures which are obvious in the diagrams, which are known as the capsules of the sporophyte. In this slide, I am going to discuss the life cycle of Anthoceros. Anthoceros' main plant body is the gametophyte. In the gametophyte, the male and the female reproductive organs are produced. The male reproductive organ is known as the antheridium, and the female reproductive organ is the archegonium. Inside the antheridium, the male gamete antherozoids are produced. Inside the archegonium, the female gametes or eggs are produced. The egg and antherozoids are haploid. After the process of fertilization or syngamy, they give rise to oospore, which is diploid. The oospore give rise to embryo. The embryo give rise to the sporogonium. The sporogonium give rise to spore mother cells. The spore mother cells, after the process of meiosis or reduction division, give rise to haploid spores. The haploid spores grow and germinate into the juvenile stage, which is known as protonema, which give rise to the adult Anthoceros plant, which means the gametophyte. Anthoceros also reproduce by vegetative reproduction by the formation of structures such as tubers and gamma. Thank you, students.